And lo, on the third level deep, we podcasted again. Hello and welcome everybody to 3 Levels Deep. I'm Santo and I'm here with Matt.
Hello.
And today we've got a rip-roaring good time of games that we played and potentially things that we've seen.
Indeed.
As always, if you want to get in contact with us, you can email us at 3levelsdeep@outlook.com and you can have your email read on the podcast. So let's get started here. Matt, how about you let us know, something that you've been playing?
I've been playing a few things. I continued down the Resident Evil rabbit hole.
Yes.
With Resident Evil 3.
Mm-hmm.
And so Resident Evil 3, for longtime fans of the series, 3 remake that is, wasn't particularly well received.
Yeah.
Apparently it cuts a lot from the original.
Oh.
And it's only about 7 hours it took me to get through the whole game. And you don't have like a second character campaign. There's not really much in the way of replayability of it. But having not played the original, I enjoyed it, and having not bought it at full release price of $80.
There we go.
And having gone in that humble bundle, I enjoyed my experience with it for what it was. But that was just so I could be ready to play some Resident Evil 4 remake when that came out.
Oh, yeah, yeah. How did it find you?
It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I haven't played the original. That's something I'm going to go back to. So I can't really speak too much on how it is compared to the original. But just on its own, it's great. But unfortunately, I was unable to play it right at launch like I wanted.
Oh, yeah?
Because the eShop was shutting down. And
yes.
I found out that there was some DLC you could get for Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright only after you've beaten the game.
Yeah, it's a odd little thing where, viewing it afterward, only after you complete it, that makes sense. Only being able to get it afterwards, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because the Wii U eShop fixed this, but the 3DS eShop, it doesn't have DLC. It didn't. I gotta go past tense now. It didn't have DLC listed on it. All DLC on the 3DS was accessible through in-game menus that connected to the eShop. But yeah, for Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright, that menu doesn't unlock until you've beaten the game. So I played that under duress over a weekend before the eShop shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's one of the best of those types of, games, the Phoenix Wright-esque kind of games, for sure. With one of the silliest twists that is completely 100% not feasible in any way. But
it was not where I was expecting it to go at all.
No.
Although I'm not going to say it does. There are some plot holes that do bug me that don't work.
I kind of had that. After the twist happened, I just shut off my brain. Like, okay, this is where they're going with it. I'm going to let them take me for a ride.
But yeah, no, that fantastic game.
Mm-hmm. Seeing Professor Layton across from Phoenix Wright in the courtroom, just one of the best video game moments, I think.
I will say I was disappointed that Amir did not appear in the third trial.
Oh, yeah?
If you'll recall, the drunk.
Oh, right.
The town drunk.
I played that on release, man. That was a while ago. Okay. Yeah.
It's a love-hate relationship with that character. But he's very memorable to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is not really a game I want to talk too much about because of
it's awkward though,
spoilers.
Because it's like spoilers, but now it's impossible to get unless you are very scrupulous or unscrupulous, actually,
or willing to dole out money for a
physical copy, and I have to imagine those aren't cheap.
Oh yeah, it was one of a couple games I purchased right at the end there, along with Detective Pikachu, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, because Capcom at least had a bunch of their stuff on sale.
Yeah.
And I was just like, why not? I have some leftover funds from how much I had to add to be able to get stuff. Why not get a handheld Monster Hunter, try it out? And Pokemon Gold to round out that I now have Gold, Silver, and Crystal on my 3DS. I only have Pokemon Red, though. I did not get Blue or Yellow because those Gen 1 games are broken and just one version is enough for me.
Yeah, pretty much.
But Gen 2 being my favorite gen, I kind of want all three of those there.
Yeah. I picked up Picross 3D Round 2, which that was not on sale. That was expensive, which made me a little sad. But I love Picross. I've only heard good things about the Picross 3D. I didn't play the one on DS, but we'll see if that works. And maybe this one will be better just because of the 3DS. Actual 3D effects that could make it like kind of nice. Though my thought is it'll probably just make my eyes water, like every kind of 3D, like that VR. Like it's just like a sensitive eyes. I'm a sensitive man.
That's why I'm really happy with my 2DS XL. I got to a point where the 3D was just a gimmick. I was like, oh, I wonder how this looks in 3D. I'd turn the slider on. It's like, oh yeah, okay. Turn it off.
Yeah. There were a couple of games where, like, if it didn't make my eyes water, I would have played them in 3D. I think the Etrian games actually look pretty good in 3D
because it's just layering the different assets of the
pretty much, yeah. Like the monsters, like because there's rows of monsters in Etrian games, so that kind of looked neat, as well as the perspective of the dungeon. But I also picked up, I think the game's called Crimson Shroud, where I think it's a JRPG. I don't know if it's like a tactical RPG or not. I didn't look too much into this game. All I know is that it's by the same director that did Final Fantasy Tactics and the majority of Final Fantasy 12. Matsuda, I forget his other name. And it also has in its 3DS logo, where you go to the software and has a little logo with like things that move. There are dice, all the different kinds that are in a normal D&D thing. So it's like a simulated dice roll kind of a gimmick to it. So like you got D20 rolls and stuff. So I haven't started that yet. I'm looking forward to it, but I've got so many games on the 3DS to play now.
If I had known about that, I probably would have picked that up before it closed down.
It was fairly cheap too, because it was on sale.
Like particularly right now, because I'm on a bit of a D&D kind of craze, because I've started listening to Critical Role.
Oh yeah,
just to kill time at work, and that's been great. So like a game that just plays like with dice rolls like that, yeah, I probably would have picked that up if I knew.
Yeah. There was one other game that I was thinking of picking up, and then was like, yes and no. And that was Final Fantasy Explorers. Because I do want to play every Final Fantasy game at least a little bit during my lifetime. But the description of the game gave me pause, because it's an action game, a 3D action game on the 3DS. So chances are that probably doesn't control well without the little like goiter that is the Circle Pad Pro expansion,
or the little the nub on the new 3DS and 2DS hardware.
Yeah, and it also has like kind of some amount of focus on multiplayer. It feels like maybe it was Square Enix's answer to Monster Hunter, but with Final Fantasy.
Okay,
is what it seemed like it could have been to me. So I
could see a Final Fantasy Monster Hunter working.
Yeah,
because of how many like big monsters there have been throughout the series.
Yeah, I could too, but not on the 3DS. And again, I can always mod it or do emulation if I want to play it later. And if it does support Circle Pad Pro, that means I could potentially use a PS4 controller on emulator on PC. Maybe that'll control really good. Who knows?
Remember, if there is no way to purchase it, it is now ethical to emulate. 100%.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, I think this game is still released physically, so whatever.
If you don't want to pay exorbitant amount of some money for a physical game that Nintendo's not going to see the money from anyways because it's used.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so getting back to Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, the eShop shutting down with Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright, that ruined my plans for that weekend. So it wasn't until the next weekend I got to jump into Resident Evil 4, and yeah, no, it's great. I haven't played. I'm not too far. I forget what chapter I'm on, but I think I'm just at the end of the first area. Mm-hmm. I'm having a blast with it, and from what I've heard, Ashley controls a lot better.
Yeah.
It's no longer just like point and like tell her, oh, go there. It's there's two things where it's like either she'll stick tight behind you or stick back. But there's been some pretty funny instances where if she's sticking right behind you, as Leon, you can duck under attacks if it's like a wide swing. And like there's been a couple, I've seen multiple videos of it, of like just enemies attacking with a wide swing, and Leon just ducks under and the attack just hits Ashley instead.
So they're flying. It's like, oh dear. Do you know if like there's any penalty to if that happens or something? Does she have a health bar?
She has a down state.
Okay.
But the down state doesn't seem to be a problem. I don't think she has any health. But enemies can pick her up, and if they carry her too far away, then you get a game over.
Right.
But yeah, it's I can only imagine, having not played the originals, I feel this game still does a good job of replicating that, like having come off of 2 and 3, replicating that jump of it going from like kind of pure survival horror to kind of a mix of survival horror action.
Right.
Like the remake does a good job with that, and in the game it's been reviewing very well, much like its original counterpart.
I can bet.
So one of the best games of all time again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll probably talk more on that once I actually get through it. But yeah, I do want to go back and play 4 or original so I can actually have that comparison.
Yeah. Now, which version of 4?
I've got the PC. I've got the Steam version.
Okay.
Or as it's called now, uncapitalized for some reason on Steam.
Huh.
Resident Evil in parentheses 2005 or 2004.
Whatever. Sure.
Yeah.
That's funny. It's like how there's certain games in the Steam library that are just all caps. All the time.
Yeah.
Like all the Final Fantasy games are all caps everywhere you look. I think Marvel Snap might also be all caps. But it's a weird little trend.
That weekend I haven't touched Marvel Snap since that weekend I had to binge through Professor Layton.
Oh wow.
That kind of just put the game down for me. I haven't really gone back.
I've still been checking in on it, not as frequently as before, but they're making some good balance changes. They're nerfing things that I want nerfed, so it's like, yeah, let's go. But I downloaded a mobile game because I had to get in on a specific collaboration, which was Monster Farm, which is what Monster Rancher is called in Japan, cross SoftBank. I had to get the SoftBank dog for Monster Farm line, which I've downloaded and realized I'm way too over my head trying to play because it's not in English. I had to download a third-party app store to be able to even download it onto my phone because it's only available in Japan. And I was like, okay, maybe I could do some immersive learning of Japanese. I know a little bit. So maybe I can learn a little bit more with this. And I'm like, oh wait, no, that's a terrible idea to do in a gacha game because there's so many little mechanics and just things to click on and learn. It's like, okay, this is too much. Also, I think I'll never ever learn kanji. Like, no matter how hard I try, it just seems like such a hurdle because there's so many characters and they're so complicated.
Yeah,
Hiragana and katakana are actually quite easy to learn, but kanji, I don't know about that. I got a book from a Humble Bundle that's like easy pictogram kanji or whatever, where it's just like they show little pictures that look like the kanji characters of what those characters mean. So maybe I'll learn that, kind of like, flashcards or something.
Yeah, all the Japanese I've learned is from anime, so it's stuff that's not really actually useful.
Yeah, the only kanji I know is the character for Nani. That's about it.
Oh, but I love the mixed phrases like "Gomena sorry" and "Choto a minute."
That's terrible.
I think the only other... Yeah, I didn't really play too much here. I did finish off Hi-Fi Rush.
Oh, yeah?
And, yeah, no, that's just a great game with amazing writing. Like, just... the writer is American, but, like, it's developed with a Japanese company. And when they were writing, the team was like, I don't know if this will be good, but they just like, no, trust me, this will be good in America. This will be good like in English. They'll get it. And like, yeah, the comedy hits. Like the protagonist, I'd best describe him as lovable idiot.
Okay. Yeah.
Like Fry from Futurama.
Nice.
But yeah, no, just great cast of characters. There's a character called Smidge.
Okay.
Who's a smart fridge. Who's basically your little tutorial character who pops up every so often whenever you get something new to just, oh hey, you've learned something new, and just like talk you through it. And Smidge hits on you. Like Smidge is very clearly hitting on you. But yeah, no. As a rhythm-based character action game, really fun, and you're not really, or while you can be penalized for not being on beat, but you can also, on the lower difficulties, you could get through it without really playing on beat, because everything all attacks, like your attacks, enemies' attacks, they all come out on the beat. But you get, they end up being better if you're also pressing attack on the beat too.
Right.
So if your timing's good, like it's good, but if you're not good at rhythm games, might be a little tough. I'm okay at rhythm games, and I'm okay at character action. But there's a lot of elements in the game to help keep you, like a lot of visual elements to help keep you on beat. Mm-hmm. Like there's a little companion, like robot cat called 808.
Oh, that's good.
And when you're fighting, the cat like turns into like a little ball that hovers at your side, and there's like a little like aura that kind of just like flashes on the beat. But then not only that, like background elements in the stage and like the UI is also like all pulsing with the beat. So there's lots of stuff you can look at to help keep you on the beat. But you can even press, I think it's like the select button, and it'll even bring up like a little thing at the bottom to like, if you're really struggling, to just show you like the actual beat. But it's it's a really fun game.
I want to see a 100% run of that game where not a single command is done on the beat. Just the rhythmless run. That would be hell.
The game does actually have I forget what it is. It's a really the hardest mode in the game. I think if you drop below a D rank at any point during combat, because like much like say Devil May Cry, you've got the ranks in each combat. If you drop if you drop 2D, you just die.
Oh wow. That's crazy. Yeah, like I was playing some Theatre Rhythm, and there were a couple bosses that I was having trouble with. So I tried to do like an odd strategy where I tried to do poorly during the start of the round, because one of my special moves requires you to get like a perfect hit a certain number of times for it to come out. So I'm like, I want this to come out only when the boss shows up. So I want to like be hit slightly off the beat during the early parts of the game. And that's actually really difficult to do intentionally. Just like hit every note to be slightly off instead of on. It's like, ugh.
Yeah, for like a $30-$40 shadow dropped game.
Yeah, sounds incredible.
Fantastic. Yeah. And for a lot of people, it's easily like, I think that dropped in February, and for a lot of people, it's already just like game of the year.
Well,
game of the That's about it for what I've played.
All right. I mean, I can go next with the one game I've sunk all my time into since the last podcast, basically, which has been Octopath Traveler 2. I sunk just slightly over 60 hours into it on the game clock, and I made sure that when I wasn't playing it, I pressed the home button on the Switch, so that's pure play time right there. Because
the ultimate pause.
Yes.
I hate games that continue when you hit that home button. Like there are some games there's no like ability to pause a cutscene or something, and like you'll think, oh, I'll hit the home, that'll pause it. But there's been some games where it still keeps playing when you hit the home button. It's just like, that's stupid.
That is stupid. The only thing I could see that with is like, well, okay, not during the cutscenes. You should always have the option to pause, and all you have the option to skip cutscenes.
If you're on a replay, yeah.
No, I even think on the first play, you should always have that option. I don't care how much effort was put into it. Like sometimes,
Yeah, you should always be able to pause cutscenes, and it shouldn't be a single button press. Like skipping should not be a single button press.
Oh no, it shouldn't be. Like a lot of games now, you do the hold to skip. Yeah. Octopath Traveler 2, it does hold to skip the cutscenes.
Resident Evil 4 remake.
There you go. But yeah, like I could see like like a Souls-like game where during the action, like during not cutscenes, if you press the home button, it shouldn't pause. Yeah. Just so that you have zero possibility to pause the game.
Because you can't pause in those games at all anyway. So.
Yeah. But, so Octopath Traveler 2, I guess the long and short of it is, if you've played the first game, you've played the second game. It is maybe the most incremental sequel I've played in a very long time, not counting sports games.
Okay.
Like, they added some smart stuff to it that makes it better for sure, but the core of the game is still pretty much the exact same.
Like, I hear there's actually a little bit of character interaction now.
Yes, I'll get to that. So the gimmick of this game is that there's 8 characters in the world. You can recruit them in any order, do all these different character quests in whatever order you want. So it very much strives to be a non-linear RPG. Now, there's always recommended levels for what quests you go and do that kind of give you a preferred path through the quests, but you don't have to follow that if you don't want to. The world is very open, and because of that, and being able to take whatever quests you want, you can go into areas that you're not supposed to be in.
Lovely.
Yeah. So, and the random encounters will probably mess you up, but depending on how frisky you're feeling about your chance of running away, you can maybe snag like the nearest treasure to the door in some areas, or take on some bosses quite early. I took on a overworld boss, like about maybe 10 levels earlier than I should have, with my main character like even lower where everybody else in the game. Because the game does one thing that I don't really like, which is the first character that you pick is always in your party until the end.
Until you've cleared their story, right?
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, I forgot that it was clearing their story and not clearing all stories to get them out of your party, because I did their story last. Oh. and then I unlocked the ability to swap them on the party. I'm like, damn it, they're so overleveled right now. which that's why I don't like it, is that, okay, you have one character that's kind of over leveled for a lot of the game, and I did the quests in recommended level order for the most part, so there were some bosses that like I didn't even really get to see their gimmicks. There was one boss that didn't get a turn because I was able to beat them so fast. And that's in part due to the interesting combat system that this game has, where enemies have weak points that if you hit those weak points enough times, the enemies will get broken, and that will let you do more damage to them, and will have them skip a turn. There will be one like phase of turns where they won't get any actions. So being able to plan out, okay, I want to be able to break my opponent here during this specific time, because some opponents will like gear up for like a big attack, and it'll tell you that they're gearing up. So it's like, oh snap, you really need to break them before they get this big attack out.
Kind of fixes your problem with the Persona games, where you just have to hit them the once, and they're in the weakened state.
Yeah, but well, I mean that's a problem for like the random encounters mostly, is that they make them pretty uninteresting in my opinion.
Yeah.
The bosses usually don't have weak points, or like make them not have weak points after a certain point or whatever. But the other interesting battle mechanic in this game is that every turn your character gets a boost point, and you can spend those boost points to either attack more times, so you can hit weak points multiple times, or power up your abilities. And that creates an interesting kind of dynamic where you want to kind of like save them up to unleash these big attacks while the enemy's broken, to like maximize your damage and stuff like that. But doing that properly leads to situations where you can kind of win easily. So that was a bit of a problem, but largely I think the combat in this game is quite good for a JRPG.
Because I've still only played like 5 hours of the first game. Mm-hmm. It's one I do want to go back to, but I did really enjoy the combat.
Yeah, and you know, each character has their own separate job, and then you can assign or class or whatever. I guess I'll just say class, and you can assign subclasses to each of your characters. In this game, you can assign multiple of subclasses to more than one character if you complete certain quest objectives. So you can have a party of merchants if you want, which is actually kind of overpowered, because you just throw money at the problem and it goes away. So that's all well and good. And
so would you say there's even a need to play the first one, or you can just go to the second one?
So I'd say if you haven't played the first one, you should play the second one instead of the first one, because I think what they add in the second one, which I'll get to, does improve the game, and there's nothing important that ties to the first game. There's a couple references, that's it.
Okay.
Some of the stuff they added day-night system.
Yeah, I saw that.
Where during the day and during the night, different NPCs will be out and about, or in different places sometimes. And each of your characters has an overworld action that they can take, whether it be stealing items from NPCs, inquiring information from them, beating them up. And so each character has different overworld actions between day and night that usually, are get a task done for either money, probability, or just a flat level check for the most part. And so solving those little things in the world, like some quests you have to solve that way where, there's this one person that just isn't waking up on time. Okay, well, you need to knock them out during the daytime so they get enough sleep so that the next day they'll be able to go out and fish properly. So there's some good writing between all the quests and NPCs and stuff like that. And one of the things that's nice is that talking to NPCs will say one thing. When you inquire information about them, you'll find out that maybe they're more hidden thoughts basically. So that adds context to what they're saying. And some people are just complete 180s, or you'll get fun little references and jokes in that. So that's all quite good.
Now, you're also able to just toggle the night day?
Yes, you are. So, which is nice, and the music changes between night and day.
Okay.
Where nighttime is a more somber, more version of the the day theme, which is nice.
And enemies at nighttime are more powerful.
Generally, yes, you'll encounter more powerful enemies at night. However, there's one kind of snag in that, and that's that there are a couple characters that play. One character, the character I started as, Throne, the thief, applies buffs to your party when you have a battle at night, and the cleric, who I got second, Temenos, applies debuffs to the enemy at nighttime. So it's actually easier to fight during nighttime if those two members are in your party, which is kind of funny.
That's really good synergy right there.
Yeah. But one other thing that they added that I think was a very good addition was they add a separate gauge for each character where once it fills up, they are able to do a character-specific action. For example, Throne can do an additional action that turn. Temenos can reduce the enemy's shield points, regardless of hitting a weak point or not. So that makes it so that not every... Because in the previous game, certain characters were just better at other characters' jobs. The warrior just had the highest strength growth, so they were just the best at any of the physically based jobs. But having these more character-specific actions that you can take makes the characters more unique in their starting job, for example. So that's good. The game is also a bit less formulaic than the first game. There's a couple quests that are for the same character that are of the same level, so you can kind of... Because in the first game it was just recruit character, first quest, second quest, third quest for every single character, and was kind of, it felt very formulaic. In this one, some quests don't have a big boss at the end. There's one that just has no combat at all. It's just investigation. Oh, so they try to vary it up a bit. Different characters have different amount of chapters to their story. So that's good because that's the biggest problem that I had with the first game was it was just formulaic.
Well, apparently for the first game, I think this was in a interview with the developers, they didn't actually intend for people to go get all 8 people.
Really?
They intended they kind of felt people would just build a party of 4 and then just go through the game like that.
Why? Also, well, I mean, they made the bonus boss in the first game required you to get everybody, so so how's that, huh? Contradiction, objection. And there's, without spoiling anything, it's the same thing here where there's a boss at the end where you have to complete everybody's quests to be able to access. One thing that they added that was nice was the other main problem I had with the first game was there was no character interaction, like you brought up. There's more in this game where there's a couple paired paths where there's 4 there where 2 characters in each one. There's no crossover between those, which is another problem. So that's nice because you're building a party of these 8 characters, but they felt completely disparate in the first game. There was barely any interaction. Now there is, so you get to see how your characters react and feel more like a party instead of 8 people that just happen to run into each other.
Yeah, because it was weird. You'd be going through someone's story in the first one, and it's just the rest of the party's just not there at all.
Yeah.
And then battle starts, and then they just show up.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing in this one for the main character's path, and there's also parts in certain main character's paths where if you had, for example, a thief that's very good at thieving things, maybe that would help you out in this, but of course they're nowhere to be seen except for battles. The problem with the paired paths is that they're too short. There's one when you complete the first quest of everybody, and then one when you complete all the quests for everybody. So they could have done a bit more there, I think. And the fact that they're only static between 2 characters, okay, so Throne and Temenos, that's their route. They don't get to interact with anybody else really, which is a shame. Okay, what else? The thing that I think would make this easier is just, I understand the problem of having character interaction in the individual routes, but they should just make getting all 8 characters mandatory. That's what you said about the initial development of the game. That's completely mind-boggling to me. I never would have thought that in a million years. But they should just make make you grab everybody and make you be able to swap between party members whenever you want. That doesn't unlock until you've finished everybody's character quest. Otherwise, you have to swap at a tavern, which makes things kind of inconvenient because there's some characters that are out in dungeons or on like traveling sections where you need specific path actions to, do stuff with them.
Yeah.
And you might not have the character in your party, so you got to go all the way to the tavern and grab the purpose and get back there. Kind of a hassle that doesn't need to be there. The other main selling point of this game is the art for it.
Oh yeah,
of course.
These games look beautiful.
Yeah, it does what the Square Enix has called their 2D HD pixel art or whatever, where it's it's pixel art textures on a fully rendered 3D environment. It's made on Unreal, and yeah, the game looks very pretty. There's a lot of nice lighting effects, particle effects. A lot of the characters have a decent amount of animations for their little sprite animations, which is good. The thing is, though, is that I played on Switch, and the Switch is an underpowered machine.
Oh no!
And so there were some frame rate drops in this game. It's come on, Unreal, why you gotta do this? So, they were largely in battle when big effects happened, and a couple different areas where there were just too many people on screen. But it wasn't that big a deal. It didn't happen very often, but it was still noticeable and still hilarious to me. I will say that after having played the first game, I think the visuals in this game are a little bit less impressive just from being the sequel to a game that already did it. There weren't any spots in this game where I just set the controller down, really just stared at the game, where there were a few in the first game that I just was wow, this is a really striking area that I'm in. But again, that's due to it being very iterative. So the characters in the game are pretty much largely fine. The character stories, they're not long enough, I think, to properly develop the characters. Especially as that a lot of characters, they don't have a consistent other character in their stories to interact with and bounce off of to really show the character's growth over time, where it's just new character in this new chapter of the story, you're going to kind of establish each character as base level, and that's kind of it.
It kind of makes it feel like their own story is just a side quest.
Kinda, yeah. But there are a couple characters I really did like. Temenos, I mentioned earlier, he's the cleric. He's part of the Inquisition at the church. So he's very suspicious by nature of everything, including his own faith. So his story is one of the best because he has one side character that shows up in pretty much all the chapters of his story, which is a sanctum knight, a knight of the church or whatever, who is extremely straight-laced, on the nose, eyes forward kind of thing. So having that, straight man to Temenos's kind of wry, sarcastic attitude was really good, and each of them having those personalities helped them in their quest to get to the bottom of some stuff. And the other amazing character is the merchant Partitio. I almost started as him because he had the best look. He had the best drip out of everybody. He's got this big yellow coat, a big old hat, and he's fighting the most evil villain of all, capitalism.
Oh,
where he just wants to see poverty stricken from the world, and he's gonna go around the world and be the most optimistic guy with a southern accent you've ever seen.
The world needs more Robin Hoods.
He's not even but here's the thing, he's not steal from the rich and distribute to the poor. He's buy from the rich and distribute to the poor. He's going to use his mercantile wiles to get buttloads of money and do some really silly things with it. Let's just say that. And he is responsible for some inventions in the Octopath Traveler world that are really funny to think of somebody inventing that. For example, he invented the first department store. as part of one of his quests. And it's like, that's crazy. So his story is really good, and every time he has any kind of interaction with any of the other characters was really good, because there are like little bits of interactions during quests if you have the right characters in your party at the right time, which I wish they were voiced. They're not, which is weird because like the rest of the quests and stuff are voiced, and the voice acting is quite good. Whatever. So I mean, again, the long and short of it is, if you haven't played the first game, I'd recommend this game over it. If you've played the first game, it's been quite a while. You can play this game and enjoy it, but don't expect anything really groundbreaking. If you just want more Octopath Traveler, this is more Octopath Traveler. I would also say play it on a different platform than the Switch if you can. And
I think this one simultaneously released on
PC, I believe.
PC and PlayStation, I think.
Maybe PlayStation as well. I know the first game's on PC. But the other thing is, like, I still think that this game is asking a bit much at full price.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I did get 60 hours worth out of it, but it wasn't, like, non-stop, like, great 60 hours. It was mostly good 60 hours. I actually played this game in a very odd way than I normally do, where I didn't, like, binge play it like most games, where I played it, like, for, like, maybe, like, an hour and a half, and then put it down, did something else, came back to it. And even, like, multiple times a day I would do that, but it was just, like, do a character's quest or explore a dungeon, then put it down, do something else, come back to it. Because there's a lot of minutia in the game, especially with the path actions and me being very obsessive, where I basically wanted to steal everything from everybody and, like, get all the information from everybody that I could. So that was, you know, that could get a bit, like, I wouldn't say frustrating, but it made me, like, restless, having to, like, go to all these NPCs and do this little stuff. I don't know. But, I mean, I still think it's a recommend. I think it's, like, it's the definition of solid, in my opinion. So it's like the most 7.5 game out of 10 that you could have in my rating scale, at least. I'm not going to give it an 8, even though that would be very on brand. An 8 has to do something. Do something great. This game does pretty much everything good. So that's what I spent my time on, really.
Well, but the only other thing I did was not watch the Mario movie. Yeah. But that, I don't know if you saw, critically did not do great, but the fan reception's been pretty good, and apparently I'm hearing it's just like, yeah, it's a kid's movie.
Yeah, fair enough.
But what I did watch was the Tetris movie.
I still know next to nothing about what this movie is.
It's just about them trying to acquire the rights, get the rights out of the Soviet Union to publish outside of there.
Oh, okay.
It's not a Tetris movie.
Yeah, like it's a biopic, basically. Yeah, okay.
But not being a documentary, it gets, the hand of Hollywood is all over the movie.
It's dramatized to hell. Sure.
But it was still a really enjoyable movie. And the real life Hank Rogers, the character that's followed throughout the movie, like in real life, he actually said that the movie it's 100% emotionally accurate.
That's a good way to put it.
Like the tension, emotion that's there, like, yeah, it's depicted well for, like, what was being felt, like trying to secure these rights and everything. Like, but there's like this big, like at the end there's like a car chase.
What? Okay.
Which did not happen in real life.
Yeah, I bet.
But like the tension there, that it's like what they were actually feeling at that time. But yeah, no, it's a very enjoyable movie. It gives you a good idea of what things were like there, trying to get the rights out of the USSR. And the movie kind of depicts it as it's a bit of a race to get the rights, because it's like right at the end of the collapse of the USSR. But like there was like more time there in real life. It wasn't quite right there.
Yeah,
but,
of course.
Great performances all around from all the actors, and I give it a big recommend.
Give it a line piece out of 10.
Yep.
one line piece up.
Yeah, and they do occasionally like sprinkle in some like little video game graphics here and there in the movie. Like there's a moment at the beginning where Hank Rogers is trying to get a loan, and he's just talking about Tetris and how like he played it for 5 minutes and it stuck with him. He still sees falling blocks in his dreams. As he's saying this, you see like Tetris blocks falling behind him, and it's just like, yeah, no, I've had that.
Yeah.
I've literally had that. The Tetris effect is real.
It's extremely real.
But yeah, and throughout the movie, like in the soundtrack, they sprinkle in like the main Tetris theme, like just. I'd say it might be subtle for some people, but for people who like have played Tetris and know that theme, like it's not subtle at all. The movie also features not one but 2 covers of "Holding Out for a Hero."
What?
A Japanese and a Russian version.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, no, it's a fun movie. Obviously, just Hollywooded up, but just gives you a good idea of the nightmare that it was getting those rights for the game.
Awesome. I think all the pieces have fallen into place then for us to end this podcast. If you've got anything else.
The only other thing I can think of is they had that 10-minute presentation for Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh, yeah, I didn't catch any of that.
It's got me interested.
Yeah.
Because there's a mechanic which allows you to fuse weapons together.
Oh boy.
And when you do this, it does actually restore the durability of a weapon you used. In there, they show you, for demonstration, they show like Link just having a tree branch and then attaching a rock to it for a makeshift club, or putting a pitchfork on a long stick to have an even longer pitchfork. But with the durability is still there, and I wasn't a fan of the durability, but this kind of changes that a bit for me, because now I can get creative with the weapons that are about to break.
Yeah.
See what kind of monstrosity. I want like a candelabra of weapons. Like it starts as one sword, and then there's like how many candles are like 12, 13?
A lot.
And it's just like just all these different. I doubt I'll be able to make a monstrosity like that, but I would love it if I could.
Yeah, I want to see them get like Dead Rising 2 with these weapons.
I would say that is kind of how it feels. Like there's no recipes you have to like find to create. It's just kind of like, what do you got? But yeah, I want to see how that goes. And they did show off the vehicle construction a little bit as well, which we saw, which you can see in our Nintendo Direct reaction from February. What's that?
So weird.
But
that's the direction they went with.
Well, apparently, because that was kind of inspired by what players were doing in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, like players were already like finding very, very innovative ways to traverse that environment.
Yeah, because you could Octoroks would drop octo balloons, which you could attach to items, and then they would just like inflate and just start lifting them up. So people were trying to make like little airships with those octo balloons, and it kind of just.
Or using that weird, like, freeze, but force is still applied to the object power to, like, smack something a few times, jump on, and then get launched.
Yep. But, I mean, you've got, it seems like different tools this time around, because you've also got, you can reverse time on an object,
Okay.
and you have the ability to phase through objects. Like
you can turn on no clip?
only
Great.
going up. Like they demonstrate it by like if there's a ceiling above you, you can just aim it at the ceiling and you'll just go up through the ceiling and you'll just appear on top of on the top.
Okay.
You'll just come crawling out of a hole in the ground on the top. It's
weird.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll take new traversal mechanics, because one of the most annoying things to me in Breath of the Wild was I'm trying to climb something and then it starts raining.
Yep.
Because you just cannot climb in the rain. But yeah, after coming off of replaying Breath of the Wild, as I talked about last time, seeing that kind of got me a little more excited for Tears of the Kingdom again.
Mm-hmm.
Not excited about that $90 price tag, but
well, it is what it is, right?
I'm just gonna buy those a pair of those Nintendo Switch Online vouchers.
Yeah.
And use one of those for that.
Get that slight savings.
Yeah. Don't know what I'll use the other one for yet, but that's that's about it.
All right. So I guess we can wrap up then. If you'd like to get in contact with us, 3levelsdeep@outlook.com. You can check us out on YouTube, 3 Levels Deep on there. We've started a new series where we play fighting games every month.
Yep, mediocre monthlies.
Yes, because as we are quite mediocre at fighting games, and sometimes the fighting games we play are going to be quite mediocre. Like potentially the one we're going to play today after this recording, which we won't say, but it's going to be a tree burner, not a barn burner, or a bush burner. Sorry. So check that out, and give us a follow on our Twitch channel, 3 Levels Deep TV on Twitch, for just in case I decide to start streaming Monster Rancher at 10 a.m. or whatever. You'll be able to see that. And that about wraps it up. Have a good rest of the month.
Yeah. Catch you later.